A very warm welcome back to the channel. Be sure to subscribe to Globetrotting. Over 80% are unsubscribed, and as they push for 50,000 this year, your support would be appreciated. Korean Air was one of the many airlines that experienced quite a turbulent start to the 2020s. The global pandemic resulted in unprecedented travel restrictions and significant battles for airlines, especially within Asia. It took not only patience, but cost-cutting measures, streamlining, and so much more to navigate these turbulent times that sometimes felt like there was no end in sight. However, Korean Air was able to emerge successfully, and while it continues to recover through the persistent expansion of its network, among other initiatives that have been outlined and put into effect, just what does the future entail for the air is actually on the brink of doing something pretty incredible if it can be pulled off. Well, let's begin with some core focal points for the future. Looking into the future, Korean Air will significantly focus on sustainability. Yes, this is one of the more obvious points of focus. However, it is vital long into the future as the airline attempts to meet critical goals. Another focus is constructing a newly announced aircraft engine maintenance cluster near Incheon. This will open in 2027 and will be Asia's largest engine maintenance facility. The plan will be that this will boost the airline's engine maintenance capabilities and grow its aviation MRO business. Given that the engine is the heart of the aeroplane, as described by an executive at the company, Korean Air is very excited about what the future holds for this avenue of the business. Diversification has been vital for many companies, and that's what the pandemic showed us. If a business can diversify and strengthen other elements away from just focusing on passenger operations, it will indeed reap the rewards from this. And maybe while, say, a development of an engine maintenance complex isn't on, say, the number one list for many people when looking at the future of a company, at least for me, I find it pretty interesting, and I'm excited to see how this develops for the company. But arguably for Korean Air, and probably why you came to this video, the upcoming merger or planned merger with Asiana Airlines is one that's going to steal the majority of the spotlight. This deal will be for the ages, and once hopefully formally approved, will reshape how travel is offered to and from Korea, while also enhancing the ability of the airline to provide scheduled service to locations right around the world. At this point, 13 out of the 14 regulators have approved the acquisition of Asiana Airlines, and at the time of recording, approval from the United States is the last thing required. This is what the airline hopes to achieve sometime this year, but it is proving pretty difficult. Hopefully, once this comes through, the airlines hope it'll be smooth sailing, but it is when the hard work will truly kick in, and I'll discuss what that hard work entails shortly. While there is always a potential that the US will reject such a deal, the Korean government has actually established other backup plans that it deems as critical that can be put into motion should the major acquisition plans be denied. This could include a substantial investment or some inner workings that would allow the two to come together, just not formally in the way we're going to see them. One crucial condition we've seen is that Asiana's cargo division will need to disappear as part of the tie-up. This actually came from an amended application that was submitted to the European Commission as part of the airline's plans to get the deal over the line. It was basically an amended copy that allowed them to make some changes to please the EU. On top of that, we're going to see Korean Air give up slots into some leading European airports if all of this comes to fruition. However, if a deal were to move forward, a lot would need to be worked out. These are two major companies that are coming together, and both have pretty hefty fleets already, and on top of that comes significant employee bases, which means at some point, something has to give. Through brief interviews and more, we have learnt some initial plans, such as specific aircraft that won't come across in the merger, while other movements have given us a look at how Korean Air is planning for the integration. This was arguably noted if we're taking a look at fleet most recently, with Korean Air purchasing the A350 series. This type already plays a pretty important role in the Asiana Airlines fleet, and with Korean Air's purchase, it's safe to imagine that the A350 will be a core focus for their long-haul flying. In fact, when Korean Air actually announced the aircraft order, they explicitly said this was to seamlessly integrate Asiana Airlines. However, there are very much equally other question marks that are present. The proposed merger was first unveiled in November of 2020, which, if you do recall, was in the middle of the pandemic, or should I say, taking a look at Asia, still relatively the early stages. It was a pretty ambitious tie-up to say the least, but there were many other factors than just Asiana Airlines and Korean Air to consider. In fact, take a look at the low-cost units. There are many of these, such as Air Seoul and Jin Air. There is a lot of talk about the intended integration of all these low-cost units basically into more of a combined airline that'll focus on regional connectivity. And when analysing these airlines, it makes a lot of sense. Why have four when you could have one perfect one, say in the form of Qantas with Qantas Link? Something else to consider is alliances. Asiana Airlines is in Star Alliance, but Korean is in SkyTeam. So in a very similar sense to what we saw take place with SAS, making in a couple of months an alliance shift, the expectation is that we'll see another one, and Asiana Airlines will say goodbye to Star Alliance and make the move to SkyTeam to better align with the new complete brand of Korean Air. All this can only take place if the United States gives its approval, and this is proving at this point in time quite difficult to obtain. There has been noteworthy backlash from some locals who believes that a tie-up simply goes against what the nation requires in terms of air travel. They believe that prices will increase, demand will drop for competition, and there'll be many more negative ramifications, where obviously, in the case of Korean Air and Asiana, they believe that a coming together will be hugely important for not only their long-term survival, but the advancement of their business. On both sides, these are very valid arguments, and I'd love to hear your take down below in the comments. While there are focuses on, like I talked about, sustainability and solidifying other areas of the business, alongside some pretty exciting route development news, once a verdict can be reached regarding the proposed merger with Asiana Airlines, you'd imagine that the remainder of the future will become much clearer. With such a big thing in the works, like I touched on at the beginning of the video, it is pretty hard to really move forward with other key parts of the business. Yes, they're doing a fantastic job expanding their MRO, we're seeing further diversification and some initial fleet planning, but if they can get that approval with Asiana Airlines, their future will look much clearer, and with more and more press conferences, we will get a much firmer understanding of what the future looks like. So if anything, I believe in the next year, I'll probably need to do another follow-up into Korean Air and really take a look at what's going to be happening in, say, the next 5 to 10 years. Because who knows, the next time I cover the airline, the Asiana merger may have been approved, or it may have been rejected, and that'll certainly throw some curveballs. If you have got any thoughts, you're more than welcome to drop it down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. Take care, do be safe, and I'll see you next time. And we'll fly.